Good morning. We're going to begin today with some singing as usual and enter this place with joy and song with number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. We'll just be doing a couple verses of it today. And I'll set up a little clap for you first. We can all be at the same beat. So. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Oh, you want to do it again? But we're going to move along today, I think. Thank you so much.
Good morning. I am Carmen Contreras from the Board of Directors, and I have 5 announcements here for you today and a few props. Today after the service, please join Rev Lara Nicoline Guerrier from the Canadian Unitarian Council for a Congregational Ministry Startup Workshop in Worship Hall, where we can discuss mutual expectations, plans, and timelines to help inform Rev Lara's ministry with us. Childcare will be provided. Second, save the date. The first Unitarian Fall Congregational Meeting will take place on Saturday, October 18 at 4 p.m. There will be a social gathering beforehand. Full meeting materials will be distributed this week. If you cannot attend, please identify a proxy. Information is available on the members page of the website. Number 3, the 2026 pledge campaign is underway. You can find a pledge form link in the EUU or on the website under annual giving, or you can pick a paper form at the back of the hall. If you have pledged, help yourself to a gummy worm. The early bird gets the worm. Number 4, the Unitarian Go-Go's will be holding a sale of authentic African art and artifacts in Fellowship Hall on Sunday, October 19, from 10 to 10:30 a.m. and after the service. All proceeds will go to the Stephen Lewis Foundation, which supports community-led organizations in sub-Saharan African communities dealing with the ongoing challenges of HIV and AIDS. Number 5, the men's breakfast group will meet this coming Friday, October 10th, in Fellowship Hall for breakfast, and an engaging talk by speakers Mike Molloy and Peter Duchinsky. Perhaps they are here on the hall and they can show themselves. For an engaging talk about their multi-authored book, Hearts of Freedom, The Stories of Southeast Asian Refugees. Please register by October 6. There is more information on the EUU, or you can speak with Larry or Peter Duchinsky after today's service. That's Larry Jones. For more information about the many activities here at FirstU, please consult our electronic newsletter, the EUU. There are a few printed copies available at the welcome table at the back of Worship Hall. And now I would like to introduce Catherine Pope, the Fall Fair coordinator, who would like to share some information with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. I'm Catherine Pope. I'm the director of the 2025 Fall Fair. We have baking and jams that we're looking for donations of this year, and I'm sure that many of you have bought baking and jams at the fall fair, so you know what that's about, and Evelyn Algar is the person to check with in terms of what she is going to need at the fall fair. And I'd like to mention that it's on Saturday, November the 15th, and we have a pre-sale that we will be sending information to Unitarian House about, and we'll be advertising that here in the congregation just before that happens. And I also have a note from Catherine Gunn. Please, please, please do not bring anything to the cube unless it's absolutely necessary. Apparently it's a little bit of a mess right now, so please help her out with that. Anyway, the only other thing I'd like you to do is raise both of your hands if you're going to attend the Fall Fair on November 15th this year. Yeah, and give yourselves a big hand. Woo-hoo! I'm looking forward to seeing you there.
I just want to say thank you to Catherine. I asked her to keep it really short, and you did. Thank you. And our land acknowledgement. Carmen. Where's Carmen? I don't have it written here. We're having the board members share. There it is. Can we read this together out loud? We acknowledge that our campus is located on traditional, unsurrendered, and unceded Algonquin Anishinaabe territory, and that the work of reconciliation is a responsibility of our congregation and all Canadians. Thank you. So good morning, I'm the Reverend Lara Cowtan. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm delighted to be here with you this morning. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful summer day. I'm joined today by our worship associate, Mary Jackson, and our music director, Director of Music Ministries, Jen, and we have a very special guest here from the Canadian Unitarian Council. We have Nicoline Guerrier, who is the congregational life lead for our half of this country, just a little bit of territory. And Nicoline is going to be offering the reflection this morning and also helping to lead us in a workshop that you heard about from Carmen, that is a startup workshop, and I hope that as many of you as possible will be able to stay and participate after the service for this startup to our mutual ministry as we go forward together. However you have come here, whether you're here in person or online, I hope that you find this to be a welcome and nourishing place. Whatever you come here seeking, may this be a place that helps you to find and keep your balance and to live a life of integrity, service, and joy. It is fitting that this service is also the beginning of our new monthly theme, the practice of embracing change. Change can be exciting and unsettling and joyous and uncomfortable. And whether we choose change or it chooses us, there are always surprises and opportunities to lean into. And I look forward to exploring and meeting this moment of change with all of you. And all of our programs throughout this month are also exploring this message as we work together. So a special welcome to those of you visiting us here for the first time. There is helpful information and very welcoming people at the welcome table back there, and if you want to fill out a card for more information or how we can help to connect with you, please do so. And now a final invitation to put your devices in their most worshipful mode. And then I'm happy to invite Maury Prevost to come up and offer an invitation to our pledge. Not singing this week, I don't think. A message from Maury. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Reverend Lara, for the introduction, and no, I won't be singing. I first set foot in this building on Sunday at this time of year in 2003, so 22 years ago. At that time, I and my late wife, Marilyn, had just returned to Ottawa after living and working outside of Canada for 16 years and being part of a UU fellowship in France for the previous 3 years. It wasn't long after my first visit that there was a pledge campaign presentation during the service. The people involved included Chuck Shields and Sharmila Curry. Some of them were wearing hats in the style of Dr. Seuss's Cat in the Hat. That's about all I remember. But Chuck remembers and reminded me recently that Marilyn and I made a pledge that struck him as generous for newcomers to the congregation. Now, generous is a subjective and relative term. What I can say is that pledging to a faith community was an already familiar practice for me and Marilyn. And at FirstU, we had found the type of faith community we had been seeking for some time. During our first few months at FirstU, we quickly recognized some important strengths of the congregation, including the music program, the social justice activities, the fall fair, and many other volunteer opportunities. I'm happy to say that these continue to be strengths, which explains a lot about why I'm still here, why I'm still pledging to the operating fund every year, and why I've increased my pledge on a regular basis. An important social justice focus in the fall of 2003 was providing sanctuary for Samsu Mia. That impressed us. The congregation still has a connection to the Mia family. The social justice activities have evolved since 2003. Ones that have been appealing to me more recently include the Ajashki and food cupboard programs and pending affordable housing development, in addition to our ongoing work with refugees. Along the way from 2003 until now, I've had several leadership positions in the congregation, including 5 years on the board and 2 years as president. This is another way I've been able to contribute and utilize some of my strengths. In addition, I've been involved with our national organization, the Canadian Unitarian Council. Our congregation is stronger for being part of something larger. But there's something even more important that's kept me coming and pledging. It's the people and the community of FirstU. That's you and all of us together. Please consider how FirstU impacts your life, and then join me in making a pledge that suits you as one way to support and build our community. Thank you.
Our centering words this morning come from the Reverend Gretchen Haley. Life comes for us in 1,000 different ways, undoes plans and upends traditions, knocks down the doors of our defense. In a moment, every expectation releases like the in and out of breath. Life is urgent and also unbearably slow, and does not take well to our fantasies of control. We gather here to practice surrendering to the waves of grace and grief, in song, in silence, in story. We come to remember the possibility of a larger call, that we might offer our gifts with a surprising generosity, that we might release ourselves from the needing to know, that we might simply be present to this beauty, these partners, this hope that we make together. Come, let us worship together. And I invite our young helper, who this morning is Rennie, the daughter of our music director, to come and light our chalice. Thank you, Rennie. Our chalice is now lit. Let us sing our chalice song.
Chalice Good morning, everyone. I am Jody McIntosh, the Director of Religious Exploration, and my pronouns are she and her. So I invite anyone young or young at heart who would like to come down for the story today. So as you already heard, our theme this month is embracing change. Have you ever felt nervous about change? Maybe it was a new school or a new job, or even something that you've never done before. Sometimes change can feel scary, so scary that we might want to avoid it altogether. Today's story is about a little tree who feels just that way. They're afraid of what change might bring. Let's see what happens when they are faced with a big change. This is The Little Tree by Lauren Long. And if you might have noticed the last few weeks, we have less pictures up here. So you just have to, enjoy the ones that I have put up there. But when I turn the page, the picture might not always change. Little Tree by Lauren Long. Once there was a little tree filled with little leaves, who was surrounded by other little trees who had little leaves of their own. In the heat of long summer days, little trees' leaves kept him cool, and the squirrels would climb up on his branches to play. The morning dove landed in him and sang her fluty song. The little tree was sure to grow up big and strong. Autumn arrived and cool winds filled the air. The wind tickled the little tree as it passed through his branches and ruffled his leaves. The air grew cold, and the leaves on all of the trees changed color, becoming yellow and red and orange. Then, one by one, the trees began to drop their leaves. But not the little tree. He just hugged his leaves tight. "Hello, little tree," said a squirrel. "You're supposed to drop your leaves now." But little tree was unsure. What would he do without his leaves? Winter came. "What are you doing with leaves still on you?" asked the doe. Little tree just hugged his leaves tight. Springtime arrived, and the little forest burst into life again, and the other trees grew bright new leaves. The squirrels played in their branches, and the little tree could hear the morning dove singing her fluty song. A fox said, "Little tree, it's autumn. It's time for you to drop your leaves. You can do it. Ready? 1, 2. But little tree just hugged his leaves tight. All around the forest grew and grew. And one summer, little tree could no longer feel the sunlight. The squirrels, they played high above the broad, tall trees, and the morning dove sang so far away that he could hardly hear her fluty song. Autumn came again, and the leaves began to blanket the ground. And little tree looked up at the other trees, at their branches reaching high into the sky, and he remembered when the trees had all been his size. And then he let go. As his last leaf floated to the ground, for the first time, little tree felt the harsh cold of winter. But in time, something happened. Once there was a little tree. We can learn a lot from a little tree. Change can feel scary, especially when we're not sure what's ahead. But sometimes it's the very thing we need to grow. Even when it's hard, change can help us become more of who we're meant to be. As we think about change this month, let's remember that even small steps forward can help us grow in beautiful ways. Thank you. We will now sing our children on our way, sending them love as we do.
Each time we gather for worship, we set aside a moment to expand the caring ministry of this congregation. Together, we recognize the cycle of life and death, the circle of love, compassion, and witness that is at the center of this and every sacred community. Let us prepare for our sharing together. Take a deep breath. Maybe scrunch up your shoulders and let them go. It is the practice of this community to express what we're carrying in our hearts by sharing stones. We put stones in the water that represent our hopes, our dreams, our joys, our concerns, our sorrows. I'd like to share first a stone of celebration for that baseball team in Toronto whose tremendous victory yesterday felt like a whole lot more than a baseball game. And a stone of concern and of hope for peace and for the ongoing pain and suffering of folks in war-torn areas of the world, especially in Gaza and in Ukraine. And we know, as life turns all of our pages, that on any given day, among us there are those with celebrations and with concerns, and with joys and sorrows on our hearts. I invite you to come forward now, as you wish, as you feel called to do, and choose a stone, and put what you're carrying in that stone, and release it into the bowls of water, that the ripples of our intentions and our prayers will be magnified by the love in this room for the world. Please come forward. We have extra bowls here this week so that we can come up with 2 lines. Please come forward. stone, for those joys and sorrows and those burdens and celebrations that are unspoken in our hearts and out in the world. I invite you to join in a time of silence, meditation, and prayer, as is your own practice, with the singing of this bell. Today's choral anthem will be performed by Chalice Choir. It's called Be the Change by Mark Kaplan and Colin Britt. It's part of the Social Justice Songbook, which is a really wonderful project that you can find online by donation, and it's a wonderful resource. And the words are adapted from Gandhi.
Be the
Will our ushers please come forward now? Thank you. This congregation has a long history of care, of vitality, in bringing people together to move the arc of justice forward. We have been able to live into our hopes and dreams through the generosity of those within and beyond this community. Whether you are here in Worship Hall or anywhere else, we rely on one another to keep this congregation vital and resilient. If you have any questions about how you can give in support of the work of our community, please go to our website or contact our finance manager to find out how to make a donation or contribute to your annual pledge. If you have a smartphone handy, you can use the QR code on the screen or the back of the order of service to make an online donation. Our gifts are freely given and gratefully received. We dedicate these gifts to the work of our larger community of faith, serving human wholeness, caring for the planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. May the work of our hands and the generosity of our hearts be given in gratitude this day. Worship mode.
Okay, all right. You totally get a pass for that. Our reading this morning is from the Reverend Diane Rollard. She's the Minister Emerita of the Unitarian Church in Montreal. And this was from a presentation she did in November of 2010. So how do we encourage change in our congregations? First of all, we have to let go of our belief in quick solutions. Patience for the process is everything. What took a long time to create takes an even longer time to change, allowing for playfulness and for chance. And serendipity can bring us unexpected and welcome surprises. Chance can actually move us toward major shifts in how we perceive ourselves. And beyond that, we need to reframe the questions we ask. Have we gotten stuck trying to solve the same problems? Or have we failed to see tension as a rich resource to be mined? And finally, we need to stay calm and present to each other. Change is more likely to come if we are able to step back and see ourselves clearly.
When your minister asked me to connect the topic, embracing change, to this moment for Canadian Unitarian Universalists, what first popped into my mind was that jaunty, almost impossibly cheerful hymn we opened with this morning, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Well, yes, despite everything, there are always reasons to call today a joyful day. And believe me, I embrace them. The budding partnership with your incoming fabulous new minister that we're celebrating all weekend being just one example. At the same time, as you well know, change has somehow become the water we swim in. In fact, there's a term for this. Zygmunt Bauman, Polish sociologist and philosopher, has described these as liquid times. With the name liquid times, Bauman helped put words to what so many of us already knew from our own experience, that what is centrally true now is that our world is changing so constantly and so rapidly that by the time we figure out how to respond to change, the conditions calling for a response have changed again. For those of us who are just trying to keep our heads above water in these liquid times, change is hardly embraceable. Instead, it is everywhere, everything, and all at once. So how are we to find our bearings? And isn't there anything more we can reasonably long for beyond simply keeping afloat? So I'd like to invite you into a thought experiment. If you are willing, imagine yourselves outdoors, face turned to the sky, an early fall day, a summer day, just like today, and you might close your eyes if this helps you focus. If you're in Ottawa, face turned to the sky, it won't be long before you see or hear a honking, flapping, V-shaped group of Canadian geese winging their way southward. Why are they leaving on such a fine day? Yes, because even though today is a fine and unseasonably warm day, actually the weather is changing and winter is on its way. Continue with this thought experiment if you feel comfortable watching or hearing these geese wing their way across the sky above you. And I'll just hold silence for a moment so you can imagine yourself in that space, watching the geese, hearing their cries, and taking note of any thoughts or feelings that arise. And now, when you're ready, wave goodbye in your imagination to these bird companions, fellow travelers through life, and return to this room. So a question or two. How many of you felt or noticed yourselves thinking some version of, wow, isn't fall amazing? I just love this time of year. And if that's you, if you feel comfortable raising your hand, that gives us a little idea of, okay, wow, isn't fall amazing? How many of you found yourselves thinking or feeling some version of, uh-oh, winter must be coming and it's all downhill from here on in? Raise your hands if you feel comfortable. How many of you found yourselves worrying about climate change? A few hands. Mm-hmm. How many of you found yourselves not thinking about the seasons at all, but transported to a memory of something from your life that happened at precisely this time of year, when the light and the sky and the honking geese created just these same conditions? A few hands, yes. And one last question. How many of you raised your hand more than once? Many. Here at FirstU, all this weekend, we're focusing on meeting the moment of Reverend Lara's arrival by practicing how to embrace change with awareness, intention, and skill. And I want to thank you for playing along with the thought experiment. You'll see why in a moment. With the board yesterday and a larger group of you this afternoon, and I really do encourage you to stay if you can, we are exploring how in congregational life, just like in any new relationship, each partner arrives with gifts, with expectations, and patterns of behavior. When we're lucky, these effortlessly sync. Isn't it great when that happens? And we experience a harmony that feels almost miraculous. More often, though perhaps in the background, there are subtle dissonances and differences of perspective. Our goal when we enter a congregation as CUC Congregational Life Staff is to help gently name and explore these creative tensions before they end up feeling like sources of division. Always and on all sides, the needs for both continuity and change are braided together. When we debriefed the thought experiment, I asked how many of you raised your hand more than once, and I did this because though our tendency as a culture is to frame things as being either you love fall or you see fall as nothing more than a slippery slope heading directly and way too quickly to winter, it's actually more typical to have multiple layered responses to everything. And this is never more true than when we're faced with change. You might love having a new minister who is finally Canadian, who is known for her empathy, skills in fostering collaboration, and knowledge about Canadian baseball teams. And you might expect that because Reverend Lara is Canadian, you'll have common understandings of all the things. And since you've been served by ministers who were originally American for decades, you might miss being able to attribute differences to your minister's American upbringing, or miss teasing the minister about their US-centric analysis of things, or because you have had to adapt to the comings and goings of five or so ministers over the past 10 or so years, you might feel a certain weariness about change. On the minister's side, I cannot speak for Reverend Lara, but I know for myself, also recently returned from serving a congregation in the United States, I am simultaneously greatly relieved to be here, excited to be slipping into the rhythm of a new job, and somehow missing the very particular kind of heightened adrenaline that comes from working to support and care for a congregation who is essentially living in a war zone. To feel many things in turn or even at once is deeply human. But in liquid times like these, to feel many things in turn or even at once can add to our sense of overwhelm and disorientation. Under conditions like these, our human tendency is to want to just simplify things. Instead of seeking out commonalities among all that divides us, we too often cling to a few bare certainties, like the most obvious, publicly knowable aspects of what we sense about ourselves and others. By doing this, we highlight and almost exaggerate our differences, and this in turn feeds the polarization that, at its worst, leads us to experience our fellow humans as being on the opposite side of a war. We are not immune from this inside Unitarian Universalism. One of the things the CUC gets asked for the most these days is help with deeply polarized interpersonal conflict inside our congregations and communities. Another thing we hear from congregations, regardless of size, is that volunteers and sometimes staff feel worn out or stretched thin. Everyone senses they have to innovate, and of course you here in Ottawa are perched on the leading edge of congregational innovation. And because these are liquid times and because so many people are worn out, what people tell us is that there's often a sense of precarity about any of their projects, no matter how promising. There's a sense that what's working today may not keep on working tomorrow. The impossibility of ignoring how much of the world is shaped by cruelty, violence, greed, profit, makes it harder to trust that our commitments to love and justice will prevail. At the CUC, what we've been offering in response to all of this are structured opportunities for people to slow things down, to practice engaging with one another in more nuanced ways, to understand the layers of experience brought by each person to every situation, and to resurface our shared commitments to UU values, because these are so hard to hold onto when we're just working too hard. We visit congregations preventatively, like I'm doing this weekend, and we host online national spaces like congregational conversations. I know a few of you have attended those. Those bring Canadian UUs together for shared problem solving. Recent topics have included how to have hard conversations, how to find the energy when energy is waning, and how to do truth healing and reconciliation work within congregations. During this November's national gathering, you can choose to attend an online evening potluck, conversation prompts included. Host one in your homes or congregations, joining with nearby congregations if you choose. We'll have Saturday programming designed to boost your congregation's emotional intelligence, so important in polarized times. And after the Sunday online service, you'll learn about the launch of an exciting new offer called RAMP, Reciprocal Annual Mentorship Program. We're going to be inviting congregations to mentor and be mentored, have individuals within them mentor each other on focused projects. And mentoring, I might add, does not only come from older to younger, but sometimes younger people will be invited to mentor older people and share their skills. And finally, you might also want to know that since last fall, the CUC has had a dedicated dismantling barriers staff person who leads monthly online gatherings designed to help you individually and collectively move forward with your commitment to the UU 8th principle, and that's the one that calls us to accountably dismantle racism and systemic barriers to full inclusion in ourselves and in our institutions. And because so many Canadians have asked us about how they can center our values of worth, dignity, and inclusion in order to better prevent harm to trans siblings, in December, and this is important to take note of, we're offering a free 4-part program online from the trans and queer-led Transforming Hearts Collective on building safer, more welcoming spaces for trans and queer people. We know that there are people that are hoping to find refuge in Canada, to be protected from discrimination or violence because of their identity or their children's identity as trans and queer people. And we want to help equip our congregations to really be safer places of refuge. So please consider attending. We're hoping that each congregation would send at least 2 people, and that after the new year, those 2 people might bring that program to the congregation for wider participation. You can find out about everything I've mentioned on the CUC website, cuc.ca. What does this have to do with shared ministry, with this new relationship you are building with Reverend Lara, your incoming minister? Well, I'd like to go back to those geese, flying in their V formation. The geese, of course, have learned with exquisite sensitivity to do relationship well. And they do this even while navigating against an ever-shifting backdrop of change. They constantly monitor and communicate with the other geese in formation. They position themselves in a way that reduces drag on the others in the team. They don't leave a single leader out in front for an unsustainable amount of time. Instead, they trade off, taking on the leadership role in turn. If one goose is tired and needs to drop out of the V for a while, 2 other geese stay behind with them until they are ready to rejoin the flock. And together they foreground adaptability and endurance, moving in sync with the seasons, committing to the long haul. But there's something else, something harder to name, something of the transcendent in how they have learned to sync their intentions and work together with common purpose. I wish the same for you, for Reverend Lara, for the congregation, and that like the geese, you will gradually build your togetherness through a shared commitment to being, in the words of activist Adrienne Mary Brown, in right relationship with change. I'm going to disrupt tradition and not finish by referencing Mary Oliver's Wild Geese, the iconic poem beloved by some UUs and heard too often by others. Instead, I'll close with a poem by Catherine Kenyon Henderson, Prescription for Times of Transition. To ease the rough patches between what used to be and what might be next, try this. Place your body in a large body of water. Notice how your burdens lighten as you float and sink. Stay in long enough to rinse off the cloying scent of your resistance to change. The principle of grief dispersion also applies. It will work even if you don't understand. Start with a pool, bathing suit optional. Test the waters and observe your relationship to time. If you still feel stuck, disoriented, or split with worry, proceed to the next phase. Find a lake, maybe at night. Practice offering your tormented thoughts to the fish who will suck them in through their gills and spit back out bubbles of clear acceptance. Afterward, if you are still reeling, unmoored, find a body of water that moves, a river or the ocean. Notice how the water flows away, but you are still here. Praise your watery toes and your steady hip bones. Feel the currents move around and through you, rinsing away what no longer serves, making room for what is yet to come. I'm going to invite us to take a breath and then to rise in body or in spirit to join in hymn number 1000 in the teal hymnal, Morning Has Come.
we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing our closing hymn, Spirit of Life.
In this ever-changing liquid world, may you know yourself blessed by your call, your gifts, your capacity for wonder, these good companions, and by your miraculous ability to give and receive love, to renew yourselves and one another in this present moment. Blessed be, and may together we make it so.
We will be gathering again in this space at 12:30. But before we leave or take a break for a moment, I would like to just express our collective appreciation for our worship associate, Mary Jackson, for whom this is her last worship associate gig. She's retiring from this role and has many other roles that she will be continuing. I just want to say, Mary has been one of our worship associates for the last 10 years and has endured 6 ministers. So thank you.